If y'all could locate the chat and just give me a quick hello, let me know your name, the paper you're with. Just love to get to know everyone joining us today. Thank you very much for taking the time. I'm really excited about this presentation. This is some cool stuff. But before we get started, just in the minute leading up to 3 o'clock, I want to give you a quick little meme slideshow to essentially show you what the internet is saying about ChatGPT, as I'm sure you've all seen many of these kind of jokes and references. Hey, Chris. All right, we're just winding down the meme show here. I got one more for you guys. It's not really a meme so much. Check out this quote from Mark Cuban. But today's webinar obviously is on content generation with ChatGPT. This is brought to you by Our Hometown, where we produce newspaper websites on Wordpress, custom digital solutions. We'll have time at the end to talk more about Our Hometown. I know we got a lot of customers on with us today, but also a lot of new faces. So welcome, everyone. I want to introduce who's on the call with me today. We got Chris, Vera, Tyler, and Terry. All of our Hometown customers know those names from our support team. And this is just going to kind of be a discussion because we've all been using these tools. We're just going to speak from experience today. So Chris, I know you're enabled to talk, so welcome. Thanks for jumping on from Rochester, and Vera's down in Pennsylvania. So thank you both for joining. So again, just to go back to the Mark Cuban quote, I thought this just really struck a chord with me when I saw it. It kind of encapsulates the whole objective of this webinar, which is just to inspire you to try this stuff out. If you haven't yet, work with it in any way that you can. These large language models, which is what LLM stands for, is really the future, and it will become fundamental eventually. So let's just start off right away with a poll to try to read the room here. If we can, you should all see a poll right now, just trying to get a sense of how much you've used this tool, how many people have signed up, how many people use it every day, and how many people are just blown away, falling down the rabbit hole like I am on this stuff. Okay, 87% have answered, so we'll give people a few more seconds. And if you could, in the chat, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves, by the way. If you could, in the chat, go ahead and describe some of the ways that you have used it, for the people that use it daily, or have, spent several hours on it, or, are just really into it. I'm interested in if you're using it to actually write articles yet. Are you using it to sort of optimize SEO on the website? There's a lot of different things that we'll talk about today, but interested in what you guys have tried. So we're about there at 100%. So we'll end the poll and share results here. So about a little less than half haven't tried it at all. So I would definitely encourage you all to stay to the end and type your questions for it in the chat, or you can save them for the end when we get to that portion, and we can have a little Q&A with ChatGPT in real time. And hey, Meg, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. She says that she asked it about the history of our newspaper, and it gave me a completely fictitious history. Yeah, we're going to get to that because I think the big take home here is that this is a logic engine more than a knowledge or a search engine. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So, that's why you start getting into prompts and super prompts and kind of helping it give you the right answer. But the bottom line, I would say here, I really want to emphasize right off the bat is think of this as like the lowest level copy editor that you can find. This is not something you should be just posting and publishing content from without proofreading. I think some companies did that and they got into some pretty big trouble. I think we saw that in the news, right, Chris? Maybe it was BuzzFeed. I forget which company, but they just started, releasing content kind of unedited. Yeah. So I think as a research tool, it's a great way to cast a wide net and get a lot of ideas that you can then, for us, and again, just speaking from what we've used it for, we're not, newspaper journalists, so we haven't been writing news articles with this, but we do a lot of content marketing, so I can speak to that. Also, B2B sales, just different ways that we're using this to describe our products and, create copy for them, or emails for prospects. Then I'm going to also give you a little preview of some of the tools for content generation and topic suggestions that we're building right into WordPress. So this wouldn't be ChatGPT. This would actually be on the WordPress platform. Also going to share with you some of the ideas we have for bots. We've got a chat bot on our hometown.com that you can ask any question. It's kind of a support bot about our features. So we'll look at that. And again, just throughout this presentation, I've got Chris and my whole team watching the chat. So if you all could just try to take note of the questions that people have for ChatGPT throughout, we'll address those later. So we're getting a lot of feedback here. So I could use some help, Chris, probably just sorting through these. So if you want to maybe feed me some questions as they come up. But yeah, like if we could kind of summarize everyone's experience with that shortly, that would be good. We're going to get out of the slideshow pretty quick here and just get into the live demo and sort of play with the tool. If you think of it as just like the next level of search, it's kind of, Google autocomplete on steroids is the way I've heard it described. Again, more of a logic engine than a knowledge search engine because it only goes up to 2021 in terms of its knowledge base. And it's always going to try to give you some kind of answer. Meg, I've seen fictitious results as well. So, that's definitely happening and it's important to be aware of. But I still think it's an incredibly useful tool for just generating content if you use it correctly. We talked about this a bunch internally, and I was just trying to think of the best way to compare it to Google. And as you all know, with Google, the input is really all about keywords and phrases. It's not complete sentences. You're rarely talking to Google like you would a chat bot. And the output is just a list of links, or in some cases, an excerpt from another web page. With ChatGPT, it's human natural language as the input. You're just talking to it like you would a person, like you would write an email to another human. And then the output is also natural language. So that's the biggest difference. They're synthesizing information. They're not just giving you links or excerpts from other web pages. This is unique content that's being synthesized on the fly. And as we'll see in the demo, it's conversational and contextual. So as you have a single chat going, you go back and forth and ask it more detailed questions. It'll reference earlier questions in the chat. Well, Don's saying using 4.0. Yeah, the 3.5 versus 4.0. We can talk about that.
They just released the new plugins are rolling out to Plus users right now.
Right. Got it. Yeah, and so Robert is saying, trying to see how it can help our newsroom save time with data collection and research, right? Yeah, I think as a research assistant, that's a pretty good use case. Debbie says, needed help starting a letter from the editor 1 month, use headlines and social posts, okay? And we're seeing some questions here that I may not have all the answers for you today. I mean, some of these things are, honestly, I don't know if anyone knows the answers to some of these questions. It's so cutting edge, but I'm worried the technology is changing so fast that I can't keep up. I feel like another day in the week to learn how to use it properly. Yep. Using it for basic research, the ethics and pitfalls of copyright content. I mean, Don, I have no idea, honestly, what's happening there, but this tool has been released and it's spreading like wildfire. That's all that I can say. So, we just have to a lot of people are describing it as just like web 4.0, it's after search and indexing that Google has been dominant in. This is like a whole new paradigm. Lots of questions, but I'll tell you what I do know. Basically what OpenAI has done, and I think these visuals really help me understand it, is they've gone out, searched a ton of text data on the internet, in books, and basically identified the parts of speech of the sentences and run that through a large language learning model that takes that training data and kind of adapts to the data just like a brain, an actual human brain adapts to sensory input. And so a lot of these AI researchers don't even understand what's going on in these hidden layers, like where all the weights are being applied to the different algorithms. And the output, it's very hard to predict, basically, even as an AI engineer, as I understand it. So it's kind of this combination of natural language processing, machine learning, and then running it through the artificial neural net. Okay, so what is ChatGPT? I think at this point we can pivot over to ChatGPT itself. So again, if you haven't signed up for this, I would just suggest using your Google account. It takes 2 seconds, your Gmail, and you can try it out if you haven't yet. Which almost half our audience hasn't. But again, it's this large language model generated by OpenAI, and I tried to. I think I basically covered most of this in the earlier slide, but the idea is it's taken in this amount of data, and then it's generating coherent and contextually appropriate responses to questions. So I could then modify my response to say, describe ChatGPT to a 5-year-old, right? And then it just gives me a much more simple answer. And then again, I'm not going to read this, but this is very similar to what I described earlier. It's kind of the difference between the input and the output. But as far as the difference from Google. Okay, now we get into this idea of prompt engineering. What is prompt engineering? Well, let's ask ChatGPT. So I've already run these chats, actually, so you can see my whole thread here. But it's just this idea of modifying your questions to sort of get the right response. Sometimes you kind of need to help out the model to get to the right answer. Like one example that's really helpful is feeding it a URL. Like Meg, in your case, if you ask just about your town and the newspaper, it may not find it, but if you plug in your URL and you've got a history page about us on your website, then that'll give it a little more direction and it might give you a better answer. So again, just like rewriting content for different levels of understanding is one interesting application. Summarize the Gettysburg Address in one paragraph. These are just some of the experiments I was running. And then this is just kind of like an overview that I used to put together today's presentation. I am creating a report on ChatGPT, research and create an in-depth report with a step-by-step guide that will help readers to understand. So a lot of these bullet points I just pulled into this presentation. And then this is kind of an interesting one. This is a topical, subject, but it's 2001, again, is the cutoff of the knowledge base. So the system doesn't know anything about, what's happening right now in the government, but I can still ask it, logically about the debt ceiling. What are the pros and cons of increasing the debt ceiling? And, just because it understands economics in general, it can give me an answer that's all very relevant to the situation we're in today to, help me understand this better. So I thought that was kind of cool. Chris, so you're making some comments here. What's this? Yeah, Bing and Google, right? So tell me a little bit about Bing and Google integrating this in search. I don't really have many slides on that. So
Sure. Bing basically they've opened it up now, so you don't even have to have a registered Microsoft account to use Bing Chat. So that'll let more people use it. But basically, it's a little sidebar when you're on Bing doing searches, and it's aware of what you're searching for. You can get summaries of things and do some selections. I haven't played with it too much, but because things have still been rolling out. But that's one side. And then Google I/O, they released a whole new interface on how they're going to be handling the presentation of search results from their Bard language model. And those are coming out now, but those are kind of like the ways with Bing in particular. That's the easiest way to get to GPT-4 because that's what's powering Bing. Bard is using the Palm 2 that's just coming out, so those are still evolving. But the thing I did want to mention about the ChatGPT plugins is there are about 70 of them now, and like basically there's one that just says show me, and you type you use that plugin and you put in an URL, and now ChatGPT-4 has search capabilities. I've still been testing it out because there was a question on does ChatGPT have access to anything after 2021? Well, as the plugins are rolling out, that's what is allowing the chatbot to supplant data post 2021 with these new plugins.
exactly, yeah. I mean, this public-facing tool is just one sliver of it's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we're going to talk about how we can supplement that with archives from newspapers and your own knowledge base, and how we're doing that on our hometown, so it gives you much better results. But here's just a quick slide. I won't go through all these. I kind of demonstrated some of them, but if you're on Twitter, you'll see tons of stuff like this, like, oh, here's a list of the top 10 prompts for ChatGPT, and they've just it's just kind of giving you some direction on how to talk to it, basically. So try some of these out. They're pretty interesting results. Now let's try this one. This is actually what you were just talking about, more or less, Chris. So I can this is a real use case that we used in the marketing for this. So I could take the webinar registration page for today's event and plug it into ChatGPT. I think I already did it here. So yeah, we'll just use this. Create 5 tweet variations for this blog post. Or you could say, create 5 headline variations for this article, and plug the whole article in there. But then, it's just going to give me a lot of ideas to work with that I would then go through and, proofread. I'm not going to just take the top result without really checking it. We also did it, like I said, for one of our customers, the Clark County Democrat, create 5 headline variations for this article. So, this is an article from this week's paper. So by plugging in the URL, I can kind of update, the model, and it'll go in there and pull the text from that one story. So, the fact that it happened after 2021 doesn't matter because I've prompted it correctly. Hopefully that makes sense.
If I could elaborate on that,
yes.
The difference between what the browser plugin in ChatGPT-4 is versus this is you don't have to be as explicit. If you ask for something that happened in 2023, the chat knows that from context, and then will choose to use whichever plugin is most relevant so that it can get the information that it thinks you want. So that's kind of the difference between this explicit versus the implicit things that are coming down the pipe.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll be doing more webinars on these plugins as we start to use them and integrate them into the platform. So that's a good teaser. Another application that I've seen is just for SEO. Because the interesting thing about this, if you think about it, how are you going to determine what are the good keywords to use in a specific article with the tools that you have now, without ChatGPT? Well, you could go into the Google Search Console, right, Chris, and or Google Ads, and look for keywords or type in keywords and then find other keywords that are associated with that. But you can't really get this comprehensive understanding of the article like you can here, right? Because the language model has processed the whole article, and it has this concept of what it means. And so it can, come up with brand new search terms that, are not just synonyms of the words that you've used in the article. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like the next level of processing. So let's see here.
I've been chatting with Don a little bit here. He's got some really good points on, and this might touch back on the prompt engineering, is when the AI seems to be fighting you. And that's why I said sometimes if you just change one word or the order of something, you're basically forcing the AI to reassess your request, and sometimes it'll give you a completely different answer. Because I was doing the Inner Loop project article research, and I did it 2 weeks ago, and I asked for citations, and it would give me just the title of the article and the publication. And I did it again, I don't know, a few days ago, and it provided cited footnotes with links to the exact same exchange. So I think everything's kind of just going so fast right now. You just kind of have to fiddle with it and massage it to get the things you want out of it.
Right. Yeah, and I'm trying to see exactly what you're describing here, Don. I don't know if I don't think everyone can see Don's questions, but he's been testing this out and noticed that it will refuse to answer questions. I mean, this exact question that I guess you asked it about mass shootings. This seems to be just sort of the 2021 issue. They just don't have recent data. But I've seen some other really weird examples where, it's just like almost on a moral basis, it won't answer the question. So, if it's something kind of, it's just difficult to deal with. So I thought that maybe, yeah, that's what you were describing. Yeah, a little bit of a basis or a little bias, I guess. Yeah. So that's a whole other area that I don't really have any answers for you on, other than people are like, there's a lot of people trying to push this thing as far as they can and really try to get through, those barriers. Okay, so let's get back to our little slideshow here just to stay on course. We're going to jump right back into a demo here, though. I wanted to share with you guys and get your thoughts on the idea of a chatbot on a newspaper website. Ultimately, that's what I'm interested in, and just to see if you guys think that would be helpful, either for customer support or for answering questions from the archives. So we're trying this out in real time on our marketing site for Our Hometown. This is the ChatGPT interface. This is the Our Hometown chatbot. So we just took the API and plugged it into our website. There's a WordPress plugin that's already been created, by a third-party developer, and that's one of the huge benefits of using WordPress. We can just turn that on, but we're working on some of our own custom tools as well. So now here's a simple demo. Tell me about audio articles on Our Hometown. It's one of our products on WordPress, so I can plug that into. Let's see. I think it would be this one, this chat. I've already done it. What is audio articles from Our Hometown? Because I tried it. What is audio articles? And it had absolutely no clue. But then when I plug in Our Hometown, it kind of gives me this sort of answer. It just kind of dances around the question a little bit. And then I plug in ourhometown.com. Well, now it has a URL that it can search, but it still doesn't really get me the answer because it doesn't have access to that page for some reason. So I guess that hasn't been indexed by OpenAI, this audio articles product page. But what it does is it tries to come up with an answer. It's trying to help me in any way that it can. So it just talks about Our Hometown. and the other things that we do. So then I go as far as to just plug in the exact URL for audio articles, the product page that tells you everything there is to know about it. And it still is giving me that same thing that you got, Don, which is just, it doesn't have access to the internet. So
I have a little test that I just ran.
What's that?
Using GPT-4 and what's called the Web Pilot plugin. And I said, list the 10 most recent mass shootings in New Mexico. From the data I found, there's only one recent mass shooting in New Mexico, and it happened May 15th, 2023 in Farmington.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's a plugin that
is running on, yeah, and it used it twice, actually. You can see it using the search terms and going through, and it's pretty transparent what the plugin is doing. And it actually took it 2 times to do it, to even get that little bit of the data. So that's where the web integration is gonna be happening outside of the search engine based. And no, Don, this is just using a ChatGPT-4 plus. You enable the beta versions, and that gives you access to the plugins. And it all just runs within the main ChatGPT interface, just like the one that Matt has here.
Yes. So just to wrap up this point here, I asked it one more question. And again, this is what I was describing as prompt engineering. I'm changing the phrasing of the question as I go to get to the right answer, because I know what the right answer is. I just want to hear what it has to say. So here I say, describe audio articles playlist from our hometown. It still doesn't have access to that page, but it figured out what it is just based on the title, because it's a good brand name, right? Audio articles, it's self-explanatory. So it figured out what that product is, although it clearly does not have any direct reference to the page, because I asked it up here to summarize that page. So now the Our Hometown chatbot, this is a customized chatbot. It's not just the OpenAI chatbot that everyone in the world is using, and has a limited amount of information that it can pull from. Although it's huge, the database, it's still it's a artificial general intelligence. So it's like got to be able to answer questions on anything. Our chatbot is focused on our hometown, and it's prioritizing our content. So I don't even need to say anything about our hometown. I just say, tell me about audio articles, and it describes the feature perfectly, based on all the blog posts that we've written on it, all the videos we've created that are published on our blog and our knowledge base. So that's kind of what I'm picturing for newspapers. If we could create something that is going to give you an edge over these public tools that'll allow your subscribers to search and get really accurate results, never this fictitious stuff that Meg's seeing about her own paper. If we could have it kind of prioritize your archives and the content in there, and then also direct people to those pages for more information, so it generates more traffic. That's one of the big pitfalls of this is it's not even like Google where they're sending you traffic. It's just giving the answer. And so that could be the end of the story for people, and they may not even make it through to the original web page. Don is interested in setting up a Slack group or weekly meetings about using AI in news organizations. I mean, yeah, I was definitely planning on doing these webinars at least monthly, but I would love to have an ongoing conversation. So anyone interested in joining the Slack group, we can organize that with Don and send out invites. Very cool idea. Thank you, Don.
Matt, I just posted a screenshot of what the plugin store looks like as Carla was asking about that.
Oh, okay. So let me pull this up. So this is, can you describe what we're looking at here, Chris? These are the plugins?
Yeah, so basically, if you have a Plus subscription, you'll have a toggle between GPT-3 and GPT-4 at the top. And then there's a little drop down to use for the new versions, because there's a browser version and there's a plugin version. And you can select the plugin version, and then you get access to all of these different plugins. You basically just click it and install it. And then when you're interacting, you can choose between any 3 to use at one time. You can install as many as you want, but it'll only let you use 3 at a time.
Interesting. Okay. So the Zillow one, for example, would kind of allow you to ask questions about real estate, and it's going to have like the most accurate data that Zillow has. Okay.
And there's even like there's a Zapier plugin. So
Oh,
basically,
great.
if you're one of those types, you can then extend ChatGPT into all the affiliations that Zapier has. Like I saw it writing emails and actually sending emails directly from the chat interface.
Right. Very cool. Is there one that will just check for AP style errors? It's a good question. We can look into that, Carla. I'm not familiar. Chris, I don't know if you've looked at all these different plugins in the store here, but anything about style errors that you've seen, or
not specifically? No. A lot of these are like a lot of them are stock market track things and getting advice on stuff like that. There are a couple that allow you to ask questions of PDFs, but I haven't tried that one out yet.
Which is what we do. We may want to look into that. That's a big part of our thing is we deconstruct the print PDF and turn it into HTML. There may be some room to improve those tools.
The one thing I would say to Carla asking about or Don, I'm sorry, is the personalities that you can give it. So you might actually try the first prompt saying, I need you to be an AP style editor. And then all the responses should hopefully have some sort of reference there. And I mean, it should have access to all the AP style guidelines. You just kind of have to get it in the right frame of mind to get it to do what you want to do.
Right. Yes. So that's a whole other demonstration that we could probably spend an hour on. Just, you could literally say, rewrite this article in the style of Ernest Hemingway. Or, as you said here, Don, I have said, rewrite this article following AP style. And so you don't even need a plugin. It's just going to understand what you're saying. It's going to, use its knowledge of AP styling and, reformat the article with those constraints. So that's prompt engineering. It's kind of like getting into super prompts a little bit there, where you're asking it to take on a personality or, a persona, I guess.
I'm a data analyst, and you've been feeding it CSV content. I actually saw a demo from OpenAI's CEO where they have features coming out where you can basically just upload files directly to the chat, and then it will completely go through your CSV file, give you all the categories, all that, and then you can start asking questions specifically about that file. So that is definitely coming.
Pretty wild. Some of the tools that we're working on, I just want to introduce you guys to. This is the first time we've talked about this publicly. It's still in development, but as I said, WordPress developers have put out plugins, and we're experimenting with those and putting together some of our own custom plugins for newspapers. But what this one will do, let me just blow it up a little bit for you here. It's basically a text editor. So, but it's got just a few other bells and whistles. So rather than just starting with my title and writing the content, I could put in a topic and hit generate, and it'll, give me the title, sections, and content. And then I can regenerate each of those. I can go in and edit the sections, maybe, remove some that it suggested for me, or add some that, it didn't think of, and then regenerate the body of the article using those sections. So you can really go in there and manipulate the story. I think I might as well. The thing, I hesitate to do it live because it's a little slow. I will be totally frank right now. So I don't even know, because the webinar running, it may take even longer, but that's why this is still in development. But let's just say, write an article about popular hobbies for retirees. Okay, you do something like that. It's going to put together a title, sections, and content, and then I could, regenerate the title if I don't like what it gave me. I could regenerate the sections. I could also mess with some of the model parameters, like the temperature. This is an interesting one. Temperature, the higher the temperature, or the closer to 1, is more freedom that you give the language model in its answer. So it can kind of go off and give you more creative ideas. But if you really wanted to stick to the just, precisely what you described in the topic and not really, get too far off, you would lower the temperature to 0 or 0.1. So yeah, again, sort of on the slow side, but it is working. And so we've got our 2 sections here, and then it's got the 2 corresponding paragraphs in the content, and then it goes back and summarizes the whole thing as an excerpt, but I could just regenerate just that excerpt if I didn't like what it put together. And then I could just publish this straight to WordPress, which is nice, in the block editor. So that's the difference with some of these tools that we're working on. You wouldn't have to go back and forth between ChatGPT, and ideally it will pull in content from your website and take that into consideration. So, for example, you type in an article and it automatically analyzes the content and suggests keywords for better SEO, or, it just uses your archives to pull in related content and drop links to archived articles that are related to the current story, or, just use the context of all the history of your paper to write the article, which is much more than what just open source ChatGPT can do. Okay, we're going to wrap it up shortly and get to the Q&A. So start thinking about your questions. If you want to ask about your paper, if you haven't done that yet, or your community, just drop those questions in the chat and we'll plug them in and we'll just see what the results are. Again, not always 100% accurate by any means, but very interesting. It's sort of like Googling yourself, but in a whole new way. So Chris, let's talk a little bit about this. You spend a lot of time creating tutorials for us, video documentation. So this would be like a good example of a B2B sort of application for creating copy on our features. Is that basically where you're coming from with this?
Yeah, basically, the documentation is out there, but it's aimed at people who are just general users. So what I've been trying to do is take the documentation that exists and tailor it for our particular use cases, which is our publishers. And so kind of playing around with things like that, and also providing some walkthroughs for specific use cases, such as some of our newspapers that have multiple publications. There's different things. And with this particular plugin, our engineering team has actually extended it. So I had to write some new documentation kind of from scratch on that, and then blend it all together to create something that's useful.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So I kind of have this outlined on the slideshow here, but I'll just show you in the actual chat. Again, this is just sort of demonstrating the conversational nature of this. So what I'm picturing, again, for like maybe a customer support bot for newspapers, people could ask about subscriptions, renewing their subscription, anything about that normally customer support would answer. This is sort of like a very common question that we'll see in our ticket system. How does the FS Poster plugin work? We call it social media auto post, but this is a little more specific. And this is the actual plugin company, so this is going to get us the right answer. And it gives us the outline, and then we can dig into more detail on the social networks that I can post to. So in the original response, it just lists the top 4, but really we've got 7 social networks it can post to, and it gives you more detail on each one. And then I can just continue to ask it questions just like I would in a training session. How do I set up the scheduling? That's the big thing with this product. Once you set up the scheduling, you just set it and forget it. So this is the big question to get started. And it really walks you through all the steps one at a time. Kind of just backing up for another application, transcribing interviews. I guess this is just a real quick point. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but I think you've been using this, Chris, and you've also found in your research a Zoom plugin, or a plugin to Zoom, that allows you to just transcribe the meetings automatically and summarize them.
Zoom One is like their advanced business service that allows access to some third-party applications. And one of those is Otter AI, which handles a lot of transcription, summary, action items, things like that. So, and that also gets around our problem with the limitations of chat on how much you can actually throw at it at one time.
Yes, that's a good point. So yeah, that's just a thing to know. If you all try this, and you sign up and you try to just download the transcription from Zoom and plug it in, you'll see ChatGPT will say there's a character limit. So those are some of the things that you can get around if you build your own apps, and that's kind of what we're looking at. If we could provide those tools, so it's just easy, you don't have to, cut up the article or cut up the transcript and copy it one section at a time and then summarize the whole thing. I mean, it's just kind of awkward doing it with these tools that are publicly available. So I guess I would just be interested if publishers would find use in that, if you're doing virtual interviews or, you just record the interview in person, plug it into YouTube, download the transcript, and then we could just create an article from that would be the idea. I just want to formally open it up in the chat to any other ideas for AI applications in local journalism. We can ask ChatGPT, see what it says. I've asked it this several times, but I'd love to see your ideas. Anything that we've shown here today, if you think would be helpful, or any other types of applications, just throw them in the chat and we can talk about them. So I know one of the big things that comes up always is chatbots. That's in here at one point usually. Audience engagement, hosting live Q&A, interactive discussions, research and fact checking, interview prep. Definitely good point. But I would also think like interview, summarizing. Trimming stories or headlines to fit for print publication, says Don. Thank you. Definitely. You could A/B test multiple headlines online that are all generated by ChatGPT and then, reverse publish it to print.
Matt, I had a quick test for you to run. Can you ask it to, because normally you would say, can you take each of those bullet points and reduce them by half? And that's pretty easy to do. How about reducing each bullet point to 15 words and see if you can be that specific?
Right.
Because that might be something where you only have 800 words for a column or something like that, and it would be really helpful if ChatGPT could help you edit it down.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of a meta example, but yeah, that's exactly right. You could use it for length, for reading level, all kinds of things. Yeah, keep them coming. We're going to definitely start this group. And, if you want to just reply to our follow-up email with any other ideas that you have, we're kind of a research and development team, very much focused on developing new features and getting them out quickly. Again, the WordPress platform allows us to do that. So that's more or less the presentation. We will go back and do the Q&A with ChatGPT at the very end, but I just wanted to get in a quick plug for our company, our hometown. We work with hundreds of newspaper websites all across North America. We build native apps, all based on a WordPress platform that's customized for newspapers. And this is just like the perfect example of how we are constantly evolving the feature set based on publisher feedback. So, we're able to roll out ChatGPT and OpenAI powered plugins. We've already done that basically a month or two after it was released onto the world. So we can turn these things around very quickly. And these are just the first applications that we're working on. We're always open to ideas. Okay, I think I do have a poll for this. So I'd like to run that as questions are coming in. I will get back to those in just a second. I just want to start the poll. So these are some of our upcoming events. I just want to see if anyone has interest in any of these topics. They're not formally on the schedule yet, but over the next couple months, we're looking at scheduling similar webinars to demonstrate some of these products. So Kevin Slimp, we work with him very closely. He's a great partner of Our Hometown. All of his webinars are free to Our Hometown customers. So you save 70 to 90 bucks by going through us on those. He'll be doing some on Adobe InDesign, I believe, next month. We're also looking at syncing print and digital subscription management systems. We have integrations with Naviga and SimpleCirc already set up, and always developing for other vendors that have APIs available. Audio articles for automated podcasting. We've talked about that a lot in the past, but again, a lot of new faces today. I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. Social media auto posts. We got a new version of that coming out. It's the FS poster that we were talking about earlier. So version 3, that's kind of got all the features of the past versions plus more. So we're really excited about releasing that. iOS and Android app, just really focusing on the mobile audience. And again, building ChatGPT powered chatbots. We'll be doing more webinars on that. Okay, and so if you're interested, I'd love to talk to anyone that's looking for a new website. We'd be happy to do a free prototype for you. You just send us your print PDF and we transform it into an HTML website. You can scan this QR code, or you could just go to ourhometown.com/contact us. I'll drop that link. We work with hundreds of newspaper websites. It's a family business. We've been doing this for 26 years now. We only work with newspapers, and we're just really excited to integrate with some of these new tools. So Q&A with ChatGPT, I'll stick around, and you can just drop your questions in the chat. And as they come in, I'll drop them into a new chat over here. So really, I'll just open. You know what? Let's start it off with Meg's question. So I don't know how you phrased it, Meg. If you're still with us, this attendee list I can't quite see. Yeah, Meg, you're still here. So what did you ask it? Could you give us essentially the question? You just said maybe tell me about Garden City News, or so let's see what this actually. So she's told me it was the Google AI that got it wrong. So there's all kinds of sources now. You got to watch out, but I don't know if this will be any better. So let's just see. Tell me about Garden City News. I'll just see what it says. I could modify it to drill down to the city. Okay, yeah, so it doesn't really know what I'm talking about. That's a little too specific. So, or non-specific. City news in, okay, so that's kind of a generic response. Let's see. Tell me more about the history of the newspaper. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Meg. As it's a newspaper. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to note either. It's giving me the old, 2021 cutoff. I know you have been around a lot longer than that, so that's not really an excuse here. So I don't really have an answer for you, but maybe if we could take the URL, it might be able to pull from your archives. Tell me about the history of this newspaper. Yeah, 100 years, right? Oh, there we go. Okay. So much more detail there. 1916. Wow, over 100 years.
Yeah, this is the way I was pushing ChatGPT to give me the link stuff, because GPT-4 without the plugins would not do this at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this is kind of a side point, but I don't know. I feel like when I tried the Bing search, I didn't like it as much as this. So what you're going to start to see is people creating applications that limit its utility. So you got to kind of watch out for that. I think like this is kind of pure as it is right now, but we just want to supplement it and kind of drive it towards more relevant information about the community. But here's something wrong. 1916 was not the year that it was founded. Meg tells me it's 1923, so it has been exactly 100 years, I guess. But it got that wrong. So yeah, really, sometimes the facts are off, but just the way it puts together this answer, it's just very logical. So it works that way. But you can just continue to probe this and ask for more detail. Let's see, one thing about is that in the Rockaways paper, Sandy, yeah, tell me about. Let's see. Based on archives, I guess, from let's see what this does. So I'm just trying to steer it because there's probably a ton of Wikipedia articles on Superstorm Sandy, but I would like to hear about it from the perspective of the newspaper, and this isn't really going to do it for me.
I tried this a couple of times with YouTube videos. If you say, what were the top stories regarding Hurricane Sandy?
Right.
Or top newspaper stories.
Right.
Nope. Oh, there we go. Let's see.
So you're thinking if maybe we had a wave story in here as the top article?
No idea.
Yeah.
I was hoping it might actually throw out some specific. Yeah, these are just categories of stories, not any individual stories themselves. Although maybe you could ask it to elaborate on the evacuation effort stories or something.
I've seen this type of thing before, though. Yeah, it didn't quite understand my question. It's giving me categories. I was looking for the most popular in terms of impressions.
Oh, by the way, I did actually get ChatGPT-4 with a browsing plugin to tell me that the Garden City News was founded in 1923.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of like what it boils down to. Like right now, it's not.
If you were doing this over on Bing search, or yeah, it would just automatically have access to that. It wouldn't be doing the plugin stuff or anything like that. And it would give you, I think it would give you all the latest stuff because it's actually using the Bing search along with the Bing chat.
Right. Hey, there it is. Garden City News. So you made the list, Meg. The top article or newspapers. Let's see. Meg had something earlier here. It's a little more conservative compared to Google Bard. Bard gave me completely fictitious names of founders. Yeah, I searched our hometown and it said I worked for the Democrat and Chronicle. I never actually did. I'm from Rochester, but yeah, I think that's the temperature. It comes back down to that. Like Google's Bard must have a higher temperature where it will stretch a little the truth, to try to give you a more in-depth answer. I don't really know how else to explain it, but yeah, conservative is kind of equal to like a low temperature, and more liberal would be a high temperature. Julie says I asked it to write an obituary on myself. The second time you asked it, sounds like it actually gave a death date of June 22. Yeah, so you really got to watch out for the facts. But like if you, I don't know, I just picture as a newspaper editor or, reporters, how do you go about writing your articles? You gather the facts, who, what, where, when, why. I can almost picture a plugin where there's literally fields for the 5 W's, right? And you just plug those in and those are the facts, and you have a low temperature and you just ask it to write an article. these types of things have existed for a while, but not in a general intelligence. Like there's been very specific artificial intelligence tools that'll write sports articles or financial stories, if you just feed in a CSV with the data. But that's, it's like a one type of use case. This, you can feed in any kind of facts and it'll synthesize something totally new. It was a nice obituary. Did it have any facts about you? I mean, it's kind of interesting. Obviously, the date was wrong. That is wild. Thank you for sharing that, Julie.
Matt, I do have I put a prompt in if you want to give a little test, because this was of what you were just describing, of a topic. Yeah, let's do a new chat. And I put it in. Do you want me to put it in Slack or in just host?
Yeah, go ahead and drop it in Slack so I could just copy it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this demonstrates the personality stuff.
Oh, and we can't miss this. Rachel has a question for ChatGPT. So let me come back to that.
Sure, of course.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Chris's prompt here. I'd like to respond as a detail-oriented reporter. Okay. So you want me to just put that in, or do I add something else?
No,
okay.
This is a personality prompt, and then it will say and this is different from the last one I got. That's pretty interesting. And now we want to actually give it the topic. So I'll pop that in so you can copy that one.
Yeah. So rather than having it all in one prompt, you set it up one prompt at a time. You establish who this AI is.
It's kind of the way our chatbots will work, where you can basically prepend a bunch of prompts before the prompt that the customer gives you, and then you can focus it that way. Right.
Yeah, that's
wow. This is very different from what I got from ChatGPT-3.
Well, that's the thing. You can type in the exact same thing and get different answers.
This is completely different.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's let's see here. So I want to ask Rachel's question. This is just kind of general. How do I keep readers engaged throughout my stories? Let's just see how it responds to that. I mean, we may want to prompt it a little bit more, but like, saying that you're a local news publisher, but yeah, develop relatable characters. I mean, that's obviously fiction. So, but yeah, you could say, would you say you are a newspaper reporter, or I am? I guess
I am.
You either. Okay. I am a newspaper reporter. Right. Because then I'm saying, how do I keep? But you could also, maybe just say, you are a newspaper reporter. How would you keep readers engaged? It's just, you just talk to it.
Exactly. That's the language processing and how beautiful it is.
Right. And the thing I really want to emphasize with this stuff, it's so crazy. The researchers don't even really understand how this works. I mean, it's looking at statistics on the input and output. So it's going to break down your sentences and analyze it statistically, and then give you a response that is basically a pattern that it has seen out in the wild over and over in all this language that it's processed. So, ideally there's a lot of noise out there, but the signal will come through the machine learning and, create this language model that really seems like it's understanding you, but it's, as far as I understand it, it's literally just pattern recognition. And this is like the way that people talk. I don't know how else to say it. But it's pretty far out. You don't really need to understand all that back-end stuff. I think just playing with it and any ideas that you guys have for publishers, again, I'd really be interested in discussing. Let's see. Basically, the more detail you put into the question, the more detailed the response. That's definitely true. Yes. But you can also narrow, put more instructions in to kind of narrow the response and make it less detailed. But yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I got a suggestion here from Robert on this other chat. Let's see. Try using the word articles. Okay.
And this is an interesting point because the chat already knows what you've asked it and it has its answers. I'm
Right.
curious to see what this does.
Right.
Because maybe it just swapped it.
Yeah, so it's talking about formatting, like stylistic stuff. That's Kevin Slimp's bag.
Know your audience.
How are you gonna make it work in Adobe? Don, I have Bing on my phone, but I haven't been using it on my desktop. I can't demo that right now, but we'll probably do an entire webinar focused on Bing and how search engines are integrating with AI. So
I have a screenshot of what I call the Bing fail when I was learning how to use it. Let me find this for you real quick. I think it's pretty funny. Yeah, here we go. Because I was actually it's a sidebar that opens up next to anything you're doing. So I was on one of because I was doing some marketing stuff for the content things, and so it was it didn't do. I kept trying. You can read through the exchange I had, or just kind of summarize what it was doing, but it was fighting me the whole time. It wouldn't give me anything. But yeah, that's just kind of what the interface looks like. It's got that B at the top and whatnot. Just wanted to, since you couldn't demo it directly.
So basically, this is okay. Yeah. So you're using Edge, the Edge browser, or the plugin on.
You have to use Edge unless you use. Yeah, there is a spoofing extension for Chrome, but yeah, this is an Edge.
Okay. Right. And so then the benefit of this is you can just talk about the page that you're on without really introducing it or referencing a URL. You can just say, write posts about this article.
The problem is but it just didn't work.
So right.
It told me how to write the teaser, but it would never actually pull the content. So I just called it a Bing AI fail.
Gotcha.
It just didn't work for me.
Yeah. Right. Yes. And so Bing is doing this stuff more than ChatGPT. Like when you first log in to chat, it'll give you some suggested prompts, but that's basically it. This is kind of neat. I think this makes sense to offer suggestions in the chat, and that kind of leads me into the question of, whether publishers would be interested in this, like in a text editor. So like as you're writing an article, it could, suggest how to complete the sentence, how to complete the paragraph, other articles to relate it to. I guess I'm just curious if people would find this kind of interface and these suggestions helpful.
Because a couple of people have asked about extensions, and depending on which ones you're using, sometimes you can like select a part of a piece of text that's on a web page, and it'll have a little pop-up of AI stuff you can do with it. So there's a few things like that kind of give you more of this interactive than just you and the bot all the time.
Right. Yeah, the bot is just kind of like the most natural application as far as I can see. So that's kind of what we're starting with. But
well, for the last thing, feel remiss that basically I know many of our customers are using Adobe products or Microsoft products or Google Workspace products. And all three companies are rolling this technology into those products. Microsoft 365 is going to have Copilot, and Google Workspace is going to have Duet, and Adobe, since it's an image-based, they have Firefly, which is their text-to-image-based model that's in beta, that's trained on like only stock footage and stuff like that. So for any of those that are using those tools, just be on the lookout, because you'll be able to kind of have that kind of integration just in the tools, the commercially available tools that you may have already been using. the one place I found it really useful was I asked it to create a field of graduation caps so that you could, because everybody's doing graduation announcement advertisements, and it just, so you can make it. And then you could, what's good about you doing it that way is you can tell it what colors you want if you want to like give it a school theme or something like that, which might be a little more difficult. Of course, if you have a photographer, but these illustrations, graphic stuff, stylized things can be really helpful, as well as, maybe just page layout items like different gradient bars and things like that, where it's not the photo part of what's going into making the paper look good. It's all those other bits. And that's where I think I'm looking forward to kind of delving into that in the future and how we could show publishers the worth there.
Yeah, I'm going to go off and go down the rabbit hole here with this thing. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. I think we'll call it a webinar here. I encourage you all to go try this, and we'd love to hear from all of you if you're looking for any help with digital solutions for your newspaper. We're branching out into a lot of areas here. So thank you again, Don. Appreciate all your feedback and participation. That was really wonderful. And thank you, Rachel, for joining. Everyone, appreciate your time, and we'll hopefully see you at the next webinar. Take care. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate your input.
Hey, thanks a lot. I will just want to mention we will be having a recording of this available within a day or two.
Right. We'll follow up to all attendees so you'll have the recording and you can share that with anyone. Thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate it.
Hey, I enjoyed it. Lots of great talk
Definitely.
From our panel and our attendees. Thanks, Matt, for having me on.
Right on. Take care, everyone. Thank you.